Long Island medium Theresa Caputo's granddaughter is seriously ill and hospitalized. The entire family is very worried about her, especially Theresa's daughter-in-law, who is worried day and night about the girl's well-being. The entire family is praying together that the little darling will recover quickly. Theresa Caputo, the famed psychic medium best known for her TLC reality television series Long Island Medium, has announced the birth of her second grandchild. On Tuesday, March 4, Caputo, 57, posted on Instagram that her son Lawrence Larry Caputo Jr. and his wife Leah Munch had delivered their first child together, a girl they named Meadow Sky. Caputo posted a photo of her with her son and daughter-in-law, along with the happy new addition to their family, along with a caption that reads, "Welcome to the world, Meadow Sky." Caputo also has another grandchild from her daughter Victoria Caputo, 3-year-old Michelina Rose, who was born on February 22, 2022. Caputo starred on the TLC series Long Island Medium from 2011 to 2019. In January 2024, she returned with a new series on the Lifetime network, Theresa Caputo, Raising Spirits. Theresa Caputo sat in the hospital waiting room, her hands clasped tightly together, her heart heavy with worry. Her granddaughter, little Meadow Sky, lay in a hospital bed just down the hall, her tiny body struggling against an illness that no child should have to endure. The rhythmic beeping of the machines monitoring Meadow Sky's condition echoed in Theresa's ears, a constant reminder of the fragile thread between sickness and recovery. Across the room, Theresa's daughter-in-law, Leah, sat with red-rimmed eyes, barely holding herself together. Ever since Meadow Sky had been admitted, Leah hadn't left her side, refusing to sleep, eat, or even step away for a moment. She stroked Meadow Sky's small hand, whispering prayers into the still night, her voice filled with desperation and hope. Larry Jr., Meadow Sky's father, stood by the window, his fists clenched. He was a strong man, but this was breaking him. Seeing his little girl like this, so helpless and weak, was more painful than anything he had ever faced. He had always believed he could protect his family from anything, but now all he could do was wait. Theresa felt a tear slide down her cheek. She had spent years helping others connect with their loved ones who had passed on, but now she felt powerless. She wished she could trade places with Meadow Sky, take her pain away, and carry it herself. But all she could do was pray. The entire family had gathered at the hospital, unwilling to leave. Even Larry Sr., despite the tensions of the past, had come. In moments like these, family was all that mattered. Together, they held hands in the dimly lit hospital chapel, whispering their prayers, their hopes, their pleas to the universe. "Please, let our little Meadow Sky come back to us," Theresa whispered, her voice cracking. Then, as if in answer to their prayers, a nurse appeared at the chapel door. "Mrs. Caputo, Meadow Sky's condition is stabilizing. The doctors say she's responding to treatment." A collective breath of relief swept through the room. Leah collapsed into Larry Jr.'s arms, sobbing. Theresa pressed a hand to her heart, whispering a silent thank you. It wasn't over yet, but for the first time in days, hope filled their hearts, and as they returned to Meadow Sky's bedside, they knew one thing for sure: love and faith had carried them through the darkest hours. However, Theresa Caputo had always known that her gift came with burdens. As the Long Island medium, she had spent years delivering messages from the spirit world, helping families find closure. But one night, she encountered a presence unlike any other, a spirit named Vito. Vito appeared in her dreams first, a tall man with deep-set eyes and a whisper of sorrow in his voice. "Theresa," he said, "I need your help." The next morning, Theresa felt an unshakable pull toward an old neighborhood in Long Island. Guided by intuition, she drove to a small Italian bakery, its sign faded with time. As she stepped inside, the scent of fresh bread and espresso filled the air. An elderly woman behind the counter gasped when she saw her. You're the medium," the woman whispered. You can see them, can't you? Theresa nodded, feeling Vito's presence growing stronger. Who is Vito? She asked. Tears welled in the woman's eyes. My husband, she said. He died 40 years ago in a car accident. But I always felt like he had something left to say. Theresa closed her eyes, allowing Vito's energy to speak through her. He never got to tell you he was sorry, she murmured. The night he died, he was supposed to come home early, but he stayed out gambling. He feels guilt, but he never stopped loving you. The woman covered her mouth, a sob escaping her lips. That's exactly what happened, she whispered. I was so angry at him that night, I never got to say goodbye. Theresa smiled gently. Vito wants you to know he's at peace now, and he watches over you always. The woman wept, but for the first time in 40 years, it was not out of sorrow, it was relief. As Theresa walked out of the bakery, the wind carried the faintest whisper. Thank you, Theresa. Vito was finally free. However, Theresa Caputo walked into a high-end appliance store on Long Island, her signature blonde hair teased to perfection, and her nails sparkling under the showroom lights. She was on a mission to find the best juicer money could buy. Ever since her doctor recommended she add more fresh fruit and vegetable juices to her diet, she had been determined to find the perfect machine. As she browsed through the options, a young salesman named Ryan approached her with an eager smile. Mrs. Caputo, I'm a huge fan, he blurted out, practically bouncing on his feet. Theresa grinned. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Now tell me, what's the best juicer you got here? Ryan launched into a well-rehearsed sales pitch about motor speeds and pulp extraction, but Theresa barely heard him. A sudden chill ran down her spine. Her gift, the ability to connect with spirits, was kicking in. She felt the presence of someone trying to come through. She turned to Ryan, her expression shifting. Listen, honey, I don't mean to freak you out, but I gotta ask, did you recently lose someone? I'm getting a strong presence here. Ryan's face turned pale. My grandmother passed away a few months ago. Theresa nodded. Yeah, she's here, and she's telling me you have her old teacup in your apartment. You keep it in your kitchen, don't you? Ryan's eyes widened. Yes, I do. It was her favorite. She wants you to know she's always with you. And she says you need to stop second-guessing yourself. She's proud of you. However, it was a typical afternoon for Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium. She had just finished her coffee when she received a call from her assistant. Theresa, we have a last-minute appointment. A woman named Linda wants a reading. She sells toilets for a living. Theresa chuckled. A toilet saleswoman? That's a first. But hey, Spirit doesn't discriminate. Bring her in. A few hours later, Linda arrived at Theresa's cozy home. She was a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a nervous smile. Hi, Theresa. I don't know if this is going to work, but I just feel like something's been following me. Like an energy I can't explain. Theresa nodded and closed her eyes. Suddenly, she gasped. Linda, there's a man standing behind you in spirit. He's older, kind of grumpy, and he's showing me. A plunger? Oh my God, is this a joke? Linda's eyes widened. No way. That sounds like my grandfather Harold. He was a plumber his whole life. Theresa laughed. Well, he's definitely here, and he's saying, tell my Linda to stop flushing her emotions away. Does that make sense? Linda covered her mouth in shock. Yes, I bottle up my feelings all the time. I thought I had to be strong, but it's exhausting. Theresa smiled warmly. Your grandfather is telling me you don't always have to be the fixer. He says, sometimes you gotta let the water flow. He's proud of you, but he wants you to stop worrying so much about everyone else. Tears welled up in Linda's eyes. I needed to hear that. Thank you, Theresa. And thank you, Grandpa Harold. As Linda left, she felt lighter than she had in years. She might sell toilets for a living, but today, Theresa Caputo had flushed away the emotional baggage she had been carrying for far too long. However, Emma had spent years avoiding the pain. When her father, Robert, passed away suddenly, she buried herself in work, in responsibilities, in anything that kept her from truly feeling the loss. She told herself she had grieved in her own way, by staying strong, by carrying on. But deep down, she knew the truth. She had never really said goodbye. One day, a friend mentioned Long Island medium Theresa Caputo. She helps people connect with their loved ones, her friend said. Emma had always been skeptical of such things, but something about it stirred a longing in her heart. On a whim, she booked a session. The date of the reading, Emma sat across from Theresa, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The medium closed her eyes for a moment, then smiled gently. "He's here," Theresa said. "Your dad. He's showing me a pocket watch. Do you have it?" Emma's breath hitched. Her father's old pocket watch sat in a drawer at home, untouched since the day he died. She nodded, tears threatening to spill. "He says he knows you've been holding in your grief. He sees you being strong for everyone, but he wants you to know it's okay to let go." A sob broke free from Emma's throat. It was as if her father himself was speaking through Theresa. "He says he never left you," Theresa continued. "He's been there, every big moment, every quiet one. And he wants you to stop feeling guilty for not crying, for not breaking down. He knows you love him." Emma finally let the tears fall. Years of pain, of bottled-up sorrow, came pouring out. She cried for the words left unsaid, for the memories she had tried to push aside. And for the first time since losing him, she felt something other than grief. She felt his presence, his love, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. When the session ended, Emma left lighter than she had come. That night, she took out the pocket watch and held it in her hands, whispering the words she had never been able to say. "I miss you, Dad. I love you." And in the silence, she swore she felt a whisper back. Tears welled up in Ryan's eyes. "Wow, I've been struggling a lot lately. That means so much to hear." Theresa smiled and gave his arm a gentle squeeze. "You're never alone, sweetheart." Just then, the store manager walked by, looking curious. "Everything okay over here?" Ryan wiped his eyes and nodded. "Yeah, just helping Mrs. Caputo find the best juicer." Theresa laughed, snapping back to the moment. "Right, back to business. So, which one of these bad boys is gonna give me the best celery juice?" Ryan grinned, now feeling lighter than he had in months. "I've got just the one for you." And with that, Theresa Caputo left the store not only with a top-of-the-line juicer, but also knowing she had once again connected someone with a loved one on the other side. However, Stacy had always been fascinated by the supernatural. Growing up in Long Island, she had heard countless stories about Theresa Caputo, the famous medium who could communicate with the dead. Some believed in her, some called her a fraud, but Stacy was determined to find out the truth for herself. One chilly autumn evening, Stacy found herself outside Theresa's home. She had booked a private connect with her late grandmother, who had passed away mysteriously years ago. As she knocked on the door, a shiver ran down her spine. The door creaked open, and Theresa stood there, her signature blonde hair as voluminous as ever, her long nails clicking against each other as she waved Stacy inside. The room was dimly lit, filled with the scent of lavender and burning sage. Theresa motioned for Stacy to sit. "I feel a strong presence around you," Theresa said, closing her eyes. "There's someone who has been waiting to talk to you." Stacy's heart pounded. "Is it my grandmother?" Theresa hesitated, her brows furrowing. "No, this is someone different. A young woman. She's warning you." Stacy's breath caught in her throat. "Warning me? About what?" Theresa suddenly opened her eyes, a shadow crossing her face. "She says you're in danger, that you've been searching for something you shouldn't." Stacy's blood ran cold. She had been investigating strange disappearances in her town, digging into old newspaper archives and police reports. Could this be connected? Before she could ask another question, The candles in the room flickered violently. The temperature dropped, and a whisper, soft yet urgent, filled the space. "Leave now." Theresa's face turned pale. "I can't do this anymore," she muttered, gripping Stacy's hands tightly. "You need to stop whatever you're looking for. The spirits, they don't want you to know the truth." Stacy stumbled out of the house, her mind racing. What had she uncovered that was so dangerous? Who was the spirit trying to warn her? And most importantly, was it already too late? As she drove away, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You should have listened." Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Mina. Hope your day is so well. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel.